Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. In this video today, we're going to be talking about the K-3 visa specifically, with specific reference to Laos. As previously stated, we're located here in Bangkok. However, throughout a given year, we do take cases that involve consular processing in various other countries in the surrounding region here in Southeast Asia. Laos most definitely is one of those countries, and we often do see cases which are processed through the U.S. Embassy up in Vientiane or Vientiane, depending on who you talk to, how you pronounce that. I always call it Vientiane. Basically, in K-3 visas involving Laos, the fundamental process at the beginning of the case is basically the same as in any other case, which is you've still got to deal with an underlying I-130 and you've still got to deal with a supplemental I-129F. But that being said, why was the K-3 created is a good key to understanding how it processes and possible issues associated with processing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Life Act passed during the Clinton administration, basically the K-3 was created as an expedited category, if you will, which would allow spouses of American citizens, specifically American citizens, the K-3 only applies to spouses of American citizens, to sort of get into sort of a preferred or faster processing line, if you will. Prior to that time, at the passage of the Life Act, it was a time when, and this is before it was called USCIS, back when it was called INS. It was back when the INS had a significant caseload, and it could take years, sometimes multiple years, to get a petition processed through for the foreign spouse of an American citizen. And yet, for some weird reason, just due to sort of the logistics, I guess, K-1 fiance visas were processing in a matter of months. So basically, they just created sort of an addendum K category and basically allowed supplemental filing on top of an initial filing of an immigrant case. They'd allow a supplemental K-3 case, which would go ahead and process through the INS, now USCIS system more quickly. That being said, a number of years ago, there was a policy passed or created within the National Visa Center, which was called administrative closure. That policy is implemented in those cases where the underlying case from USCIS of the I-130 will make it to the National Visa Center prior to the supplemental K-3 filing making it to the National Visa Center. And basically, the thinking there is the fundamental reason for the supplemental visa, the supplemental category, has essentially been extinguished, and for that reason, we're going to go ahead and just close that supplemental category and go ahead and process on the immigrant case. So there are certain circumstances in which a K-3 may be filed, a supplemental petition for a K-3 may be filed, but it may ultimately not be successful due to NVC just closing it and saying, look, you can seek your immigrant visa, there's no reason to speed this up. Consular processing, you're going to have to deal with matters pertaining to like translated identity documents from Laos, various things such as this. The consular processing will actually occur, and the U.S. visa interview will actually occur at the U.S. Embassy in Vientiane, Laos. That being said, things like the medical exam, things like that also have to be submitted to the embassy at the time of that application and the processing thereof. We do assist clients from Bangkok. I have been known also to travel to Vientiane to deal with client matters and consular processing up there directly. But that being said, it's relatively similar to the post down here in Bangkok, although I will say Vientiane has a smaller caseload of these cases compared to Bangkok, just sort of due to the demographics of that country. It's just a smaller caseload to deal with. But that being said, sometimes smaller posts had their own issues, especially with respect to how fast things get processed. Although I shouldn't say that presuming they'll process slowly. That's not necessarily the case, and actually in most situations, they actually do process more quickly in smaller posts. But that being said, every post has its own sort of peccadillos with respect to how they process various documentation, and Laos is no different. So that being the case, the way to look at this is the case starts in the U.S. With respect to the filing of the various of the relevant petitions. Then it will proceed to NVC, and depending on whether or not administrative closure has occurred, NVC will either process through and send it directly to the consulate for further action, or the case will need to undertake document gathering for the underlying immigrant case, and then consular processing at the U.S. Embassy in Laos. So what it starts off in the United States, moves to a different agency within the United States, and then finally ends up over here, or I should say over in Laos, just a little bit north of here, I guess I should say. It'll end up over here for consular processing, and assuming visa approval, the visa will be issued to the Lao national, and that individual will be able to thereafter travel to the United States.